Hi, welcome back. Today in this session, we are going to study the difference between the direct object and the indirect object. So, question arises, what is the difference between the direct object and the indirect object in a sentence? So, let's take one example in order to understand the concept. Example is, I made some coffee for you. Over here in this sentence, I is subject, made is a verb, and some coffee over here, we can see that this coffee is direct object. For you, you over here is indirect object. Here in this sentence, coffee is the direct object, whereas you is the indirect object. A direct object is usually a thing. A direct object is usually a thing, whereas an indirect object is usually usually a person. Sorry, an indirect object is usually a person. Now, so this is quite clear now that a direct object is usually a thing, whereas an indirect object is usually a person. So we were talking about this sentence, I made some coffee for you. Over here, coffee is a thing, so it is direct object, and you is a person, so it is an indirect object. Now, let's see the following questions in order to understand or further consolidate the concept. Question is, what did I make? So over here we can see that answer will be some coffee. I made some coffee. The question was, what did I make? The answer is, I made some coffee. And it receives the action of the verb. So actually, some coffee receives the action of the verb. So this particular is, that's why we call it a direct object. Now, second question is, who did I make it for? So the answer will be you. So over here, this is indirect object. Now, we can write it like that. I made some coffee for you. I made some coffee for you. So we can see that we can rewrite this sentence, the initial sentence. We can rewrite this sentence, that is, I made some coffee for you. Over here, I is subject, made is verb, and we know that coffee is direct object and you is indirect object. So if we rewrite it like this, I made you some coffee. This will also be giving the same sense. So over here, in this sentence, that rewritten sentence, subject is I, made is verb, and we can see that for you is at the end of the sentence over here. For you is at the end of the sentence, number one. Over here, we have shifted this you to this particular part, mean you can put this after the verb. Indirect object you can be put just after the verb that was made. I made you. So initially it was at the end of the sentence number one. So once we have rewritten it, so I made you. So that you is actually shifted from the end just, and we have just put it after the verb, this one. And one thing is more, that take off for, this for is to be just take it off, and then the direct object goes at the end. So initially the direct object was coffee, so over here it goes towards the end. This coffee, that was direct object, it remains direct object over here once again. But the thing is that I made some coffee for you, this is a very basic sentence, means we normally learn it in the initial classes. But once we move on to the advanced classes, then this is a better expression, I made you some coffee. So for you in the basic sentence, that was shifted just after the verb, and we take off that for, and the direct object coffee is put just after or at the end of the sentence. So this is actually an advanced stage of sentence, or this is means better sentence. I made you some coffee. Again we can see that I is subject, made is verb. Over here you is, initially it was indirect object, it remains indirect object again, but the position is changed now, and coffee was direct object that shifts towards the end of the sentence. Now take some more examples in order to understand or consolidate the concept. Let's look at some more examples now. Now this is one set, and this is the second set. So this one is set number one, this is set number two. So first focus on the first one. He bought a book for his sister. So over here we can see that he is subject, bought is verb, a book. So over here book is direct object because it receives the action of the verb. He bought a book, and sister is indirect object over here. But if we rewrite it, he bought his sister a book. So over here this is subject, bought is verb, his sister, now we can see that for his sister, we remove this for, and his sister is to be shifted. This was IO, means indirect object. Now it gets shifted to just after the verb. It remains IO, means indirect object, and the book that shifts to the end of the sentence, that is direct object. So initially it was he bought a book for his sister. Now he bought his sister a book. So as we mentioned earlier, that direct object is normally or usually a thing. So he bought a book. So this is actually direct object. For whom he bought that book, so his sister is a person, so it is indirect object. Now look at second example. They sent an email to me. So over here they is subject, sent is verb, and email, it is the name of a thing, so we will call it direct object. To me, Me is a person, so it will be an indirect object. So they sent an email to me. It can be rewritten like that. They sent me an email. So this is an advanced stage of using direct and indirect objects in a sentence. They sent me an email. So over here there is subject, sent is verb. They sent me, this is person, so this is indirect object, and an email goes towards the end. Mind one thing, that there was to before me in the initial sentence, but once we have rewritten it, that to gets off. We just take it off. We don't write it again, it is removed. And the position of indirect object is just after the verb, whereas the position, new position of direct object is towards the end of the sentence. So they sent me an email. So this is an advanced level of sentence. Now, the primary stage structure, we know that the primary stage structure will be subject, followed by verb, followed by direct object, and towards the end there will be indirect object. Means the indirect object is going to be a person, so that is to be written towards the end in primary stage or primary level sentences, whereas in advanced levels of sentences we put subject followed by verb, then this person moves over here, and the thing or direct object that moves towards the end. So it means that in advanced level sentences the structure is subject followed by verb, and initially the IO means indirect object that is towards the end of the sentence, that takes place just after the verb, and the direct object that is over here that moves towards the end of the sentence. Hope the concept is clarified. Thank you.